Welcome back to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today we're diving into one of Days of Our Lives' wildest twists, Rex and Cassie, the so-called alien twins who turned out to be Marlena's kids. Let's unravel this bizarre sci-fi soap mystery.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've got quite the collection of material here. Articles, character pages, fan analyses, all zeroing in on one of the, well, let's just say most memorable storylines from Days of Our Lives.
Memorable is one word for it. Infamous might be another. We're talking about the Gemini twins, Rex and Cassie.
Exactly. And we've got stuff here from Soap Hub, Wikipedia, Soap Central. Seems like everyone wanted to weigh in on this one over the years.
Understandably, it was quite something.
So our mission today for this deep dive is basically to walk you through all this source material. We want to trace their story, from that completely bizarre arrival.
The crash landing.
Yeah, the crash landing, the whole are they aliens thing, and then digging into the actual truth, which frankly might be weirder than aliens.
It involves genetic engineering, some serious paternity twists, stolen. Well, we'll get into it.
Right. And what happened to Rex and Cassie after the big secrets came out? Because their lives didn't exactly get normal. We're talking meteor showers, tinfoil outfits, secret labs.
Coma pregnancies.
Oh, yeah. Can't forget that one. And murder mysteries, too. It's got everything.
It really does. The sources paint this picture of Salem just completely throwing the rulebook out the window.
Yeah.
We'll look at who people thought they were versus how they were really created.
Those circumstances, truly extraordinary, doesn't even quite cover it. And the impact that had on them, on the Bradys, the Damaras, Kate Roberts, everyone got pulled in.
It ripples out. Always does in Salem.
So if you're ready for a story that mashes up classic soap drama with some pretty wild sci-fi concepts.
Or just science gone completely off the rails.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. Let's dive in. Let's start right where the sources do the arrival.
Okay, so the date everyone points to is July 4th, 2002. Independence Day in Salem.
And you've got a classic Salem setting a seemingly normal night, or as normal as it gets there.
Right, you've got two of the core younger characters at the time, Sean Douglas Brady.
Bo and Hope's son.
Yep, and Belle Black.
John and Marlena's daughter.
And they're just out on a date, doing something kind of sweet, actually. Watching a meteor shower.
Sounds romantic. Maybe a little boring for Salem, honestly.
Well, it didn't stay boring for long.
Yeah.
They're looking up at the sky, expecting, shooting stars, maybe some leftover fireworks.
And instead,
they see this object, described in the sources as round, strange. Definitely not a meteor. And it comes crashing down nearby.
Okay, so immediate weirdness. And typical Salem reaction, I assume they didn't call 911?
Huh. No, of course not. Curiosity takes over, maybe a bit of that teenage daredevil thing. They go to check it out.
Right. Investigate the crashed UFO. Sensible.
And inside this thing, they find the source of all the mystery. Two young people.
And the description of them is key, right? This is where the alien thing starts.
Absolutely. The sources are pretty consistent here. They're barely dressed, wearing something metallic. Some sources say silverware, others mention tinfoil. It's a makeshift.
Like they just wrapped themselves in whatever was handy on the spaceship.
Sort of gives that impression. And they're clearly confused, disoriented, and crucially, they can't speak English. Not a word.
Okay, I can see it. Crash landing, weird silver clothes, no communication. Your mind jumps to aliens, especially if you're a teenager on a date.
Exactly. Sean and Belle's immediate conclusion, according to the sources, was extraterrestrial. These had to be aliens who somehow hitched a ride on the meteor shower.
And they gave them the nickname, right? The Gemini twins?
Yep, that was Sean and Belle's name for them. It stuck, at least for that initial period. Twins, from the stars, Gemini. It fit the narrative perfectly.
And they tried to keep it quiet at first.
They did. Sources like Soap Hub and the list talk about this. Sean and Belle hid Rex and Cassie, probably thinking they were protecting them. They got them normal clothes, tried to teach them English, basically playing hosts to these apparent space visitors.
But secrets in Salem have a shelf life of about 5 minutes.
Pretty much. Word got out. A mysterious crash, strange newcomers. Eventually, the ISA got wind of it.
The International Security Agency, Salem's own shadowy government branch.
Exactly. Their involvement just ramps up the intrigue. Now, it's not just kids hiding aliens. It's a potential international or intergalactic incident.
So the alien theory is running wild. Everyone's buzzing about the Gemini twins from space. But there was one detail, even early on, that sort of clashed with the alien idea.
A very specific, very Salem detail.
The tattoos.
Right. Matching tattoos on both Rex and Cassie. and the design was instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with Salem's power players.
It looked like the Phoenix.
Symbol of the Demera family. Stefano Demera's calling card.
And suddenly this isn't pointing to outer space anymore.
Not at all. Multiple sources emphasize this. Seeing that Phoenix tattoo immediately shifted the focus. It screamed Demera. It suggested their origins weren't alien, but tied into Stefano and his, let's call them controversial family enterprises.
It's the first big crack in the alien story. It suggests something maybe even more complicated is going on. Earth-based, but still deeply weird.
Exactly. It threw everything into question. From aliens crashing on the 4th of July to maybe something engineered by Salem's resident supervillain?
Which leads us right to the core question. Aliens are engineered. What did the sources ultimately reveal?
Okay, so let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The sources are crystal clear. They were not aliens.
Not aliens,
Yeah.
despite the crash, the outfits, everything.
Nope. The big reveal, the absolute truth confirmed across all the material we have, is that Rex and Cassie Brady were genetically engineered humans.
Genetically engineered. Created in a lab.
Correct. Soap Central calls it a surreal sci-fi twist, which feels about right. It took the usual Salem paternity drama and just launched it into a whole different stratosphere, added mystery and enchantment, as they put it, but also a healthy dose of, wait, what?
So it wasn't aliens, it was science. Salem science. But before they landed on the correct engineered theory, there was another wrong turn, wasn't there? After aliens, but before the real truth.
Yes. Once the alien idea faded, especially with that Phoenix tattoo pointing towards the Demeras, a new theory popped up. People tried to connect the dots.
They thought maybe Tony Demera was involved.
And initially, yes.
Yeah.
The belief was that Rex and Cassie were the children of Tony Demera. Though, plot twist within a plot twist, the guy everyone thought was Tony then was actually his lookalike cousin, Andre Demera. Classic days.
Of course. And the mother in this theory.
None other than Dr. Marlena Evans.
Marlena again. She gets pulled into the craziest stuff.
Thus, she just... So the theory went, Tony, or rather Andre posing as Tony, and Marlena had these kids. Then maybe they were taken away as toddlers.
And experimented on.
Exactly. Subjected to genetic manipulation, maybe accelerated aging by Stefano's resident mad scientist.
Dr. Wilhelm Rolf. Has to be Wolf.
It always comes back to Rolf, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's the architect of pretty much every piece of bizarre science in Salem history.
So Rolf was involved, but the Tony Marlena parentage was wrong.
Completely wrong. Rolf was absolutely the scientist who engineered them. The sources confirm that. But the how, the actual biological material involved, that's where the story goes completely off the rails into something truly unbelievable.
Okay, let's break down what the sources say really happened. Rolf's the engineer. What were his ingredients?
Not your standard biological contribution, let's put it that way. First, the sperm. The sources say it was Roman Brady's.
Roman Brady's. Okay, but how did Rolf get it?
This is dark. The sources specify it was extricated, or stolen, from Roman during the years Stefano Demera held him captive.
Stolen. While he was a prisoner.
Yes. You really have to pause on that. Stefano imprisons his enemy, Roman Brady, and during that captivity manages to obtain a sperm sample, without consent, obviously. It's a violation rooted in Stefano's long-running vendetta against the Bradys.
Wow. Okay. That's dark. So stolen sperm from Roman Brady. What about the other half? The eggs.
Those came from Kate Roberts.
Kate Roberts, who has her own incredibly complicated history with both Roman and Stefano.
Exactly. The sources describe her as a longtime associate of the Demera kingpin. So, Rolf took Roman's stolen sperm, combined it with eggs from Kate Roberts.
And created embryos. But who carried them? This wasn't Kate, obviously. And the initial theory about Marlena being the mother was wrong. But she was involved, wasn't she?
Oh, she was involved. In possibly the single most bizarre way imaginable, even for her. This is where the story truly becomes Legendary Days weirdness. Marlena Evans was the surrogate.
Marlena carried Roman and Kate's genetically engineered babies.
She did. She was implanted with those embryos, Roman's stolen sperm, Kate's eggs, and carried the twins, Rex and Cassie, to term.
Okay, weird enough. But there's more, isn't there? The circumstances.
That's the kicker. Get this. According to multiple sources, including Wikipedia and the list, Marlena did this while she was in a 4-year coma.
Wait, a 4-year coma?
Yes. Remember, she was presumed dead after a plane crash. She was completely unconscious, vegetative state for 4 years. And during that time, Stefano and Rolf used her body, essentially, as an incubator. They implanted the embryos while she was comatose.
She carried and delivered twins while comatose for 4 years after being presumed dead.
That's what the sources lay out. It's medically Questionable, to say the least, but dramatically. It's peak days of our lives. Think about everything Marlena's been through. Demonic possession, being framed as a serial killer, countless near deaths, and then add unwitting comatose surrogate for genetically engineered twins created from stolen sperm to the list.
It's just staggering, the layers of impossibility.
It really defined this storyline as something completely unique.
So let's just connect those dots one more time. Rex and Cassie. 0 biological ties to Tony DiMera. 0 biological ties to Marlena Evans, who carried them.
Great.
Their actual biological parents, the source of the genetic material Rolf used, were Roman Brady and Kate Roberts.
Roman Brady and Kate Roberts, that was the shocking truth.
And finding that out must have just exploded in Salem. How did it finally come to light?
Well, Rex, being the brainiac the sources describe him as, apparently figured it out first. He uncovered the devastating news, as one source puts it, about his real parentage.
And Cassie, how did she learn?
Rex told her. And the timing, according to the sources, was exquisitely awkward, even for a soap.
Oh, yeah.
She found out literally just as she was about to sleep with Lucas Roberts.
Lucas Roberts, Kate Roberts' son.
Making him Cassie's half-brother.
Oh my God. Rex walks in right at that moment.
Pretty much stopped things right before they crossed a line that even Days usually tries to avoid.
Yeah.
That whole near incest angle is something multiple sources point to as being pretty jarring for viewers at the time.
You think? Wow. And did the news stay private after that? Knowing Salem? Probably not.
Not a chance. The sources mentioned Sammy Brady blew the whole thing wide open.
Sammy, Roman's daughter. Of course she did.
And where did she choose to make this stunning revelation about her father having secret, genetically engineered kids with Kate Roberts?
Let me guess. The Brady pub. Alice Horton's living room.
Even better. Caroline Brady's funeral.
No! At the funeral for the Brady family matriarch.
That's Sammy for you.
Yeah.
Maximum drama, always. Drop the paternity bomb right there, ensuring everyone in Salem knew the truth instantly.
The fallout must have been incredible. Suddenly, Rex and Cassie are Bradys. And Robert.
Exactly. And think about the relationships. Sean Douglas Brady, their cousin. Lucas Roberts, half-brother. Philip Kyriakis, Kate's other son, also half-brother.
So all those young Salemites Cassie had been flirting with or pursuing.
Suddenly very much off limits. Her pursuit of Sean, her near miss with Lucas. It all looks incredibly awkward in hindsight.
Did the twins know earlier and keep it secret?
Sources suggest they might have known or suspected for a bit before the public reveal. There's apparently a period where they're still clinging to the DiMera connection, maybe hoping to join that powerful family. But Sammy's funeral announcement kind of put an end to that plan.
So, to recap the origin. Crash landing, presumed aliens, actually engineered by Rolf using stolen Roman sperm and Kate's eggs, carried by a comatose Marlena for 4 years. Truth revealed by Sammy at a funeral, causing romantic chaos.
That's the nutshell version, yeah. It's a lot to process.
And their lives didn't exactly settle down after that bombshell dropped. How did this revelation affect Rex specifically?
According to the sources, Rex took it hard. Learning you're a lab creation made from stolen parts, born under those circumstances. It messed with him. He reportedly became withdrawn, pushed friends away.
And there are other issues too, right? Physical symptoms.
Yeah, the sources mentioned severe headaches, wild mood swings, sometimes leading to somewhat violent outbursts. Sounds like he was really struggling to reconcile his existence.
But he was also incredibly smart, wasn't he? That was part of his engineered nature.
Definitely. Described as a bona fide brainiac.
Yeah.
There was even talk of superhuman intelligence. Remember, he learned English in weeks. He excelled academically at Salem U. That intellectual side was always there, even during his emotional turmoil.
Which, ironically, might have made him seem even more suspicious later on.
Exactly. When the Salem stalker murders started, Rex's mysterious origins and erratic behavior put him right on the suspect list.
He became a prime suspect.
He did. Things got serious. He was actually arrested for the murders at one point.
What was the evidence?
Sources mention Maggie Horton's blood being found on his sweatshirt, which looked incredibly bad, obviously.
But he wasn't the stalker.
No. He was eventually cleared and released. The whole stalker storyline, as you know, turned out to be incredibly convoluted, involving Andre DiMera brainwashing Marlena. Rex was just caught in the crossfire of suspicion.
And during that whole stalker mess, his biological father, Roman Brady, was one of the people believed to have been killed, right?
Yes. Roman was one of the early victims, or so everyone thought. That whole Meliswin Island thing hadn't been revealed yet. But believing his father was dead had a big impact on Rex.
Oh, so.
Well, The list mentions that Sean Brady Sr., Roman's brother, really reached out to Rex during that time, showed him family support. And Rex, touched by this connection and grieving the father he barely knew, decided to officially adopt the Brady last name.
Becoming Rex Brady. Claiming that identity.
Right. Embracing that side of his lineage.
What about his love life? More drama there. It's Salem, after all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He got involved with Mimi Lockhart.
Mimi. That relationship ended badly, didn't it?
Very badly.
Mm-hmm.
Soap Hub details how Rex found out Mimi had gotten pregnant with their child and then had an abortion without ever telling him.
Oof. That's rough.
He was devastated. That betrayal, according to the sources, was the main reason he decided to leave Salem the first time.
Did he find some peace away from town?
It seems like he tried. He focused on his education, earned a medical degree, became Dr. Rex Brady.
Dr. Brady. But he came back, didn't he?
He did. Returned to Salem, engaged, actually, to Sarah Horton.
Another Salem connection. Did things go smoothly this time?
What do you think? Trouble found him again. Sarah found out he'd cheated on her, with Mimi, of all people, who now had his daughter. And then it came out he'd also had an affair years ago with Sarah's half-sister, Noelle.
Oh, Rex. It just kept getting messy.
Pretty much. That engagement blew up spectacularly. He ended up leaving Salem again, relocating to Chicago with his tail between his legs.
Has he been back since?
He pops up now and then. The sources mention he's generally been presented as trying to maintain connections, like being happy when Roman and Kate got together later on. His story is really one of this brilliant guy constantly wrestling with the fallout of his creation and trying, often failing, to build a stable life.
Okay, so that's Rex's journey. What about Cassie? Her path seems different, especially early on.
Yeah, Cassie's initial reaction to Salem and the paternity confusion was less existential angst, more focused on social climbing and romance.
Subcentral mentions she wasn't too bothered about who her parents were at first.
Right. She was much more interested in chasing after Sean Brady, trying to break him and Belle up. Remember, Sean turned out to be her cousin.
Right, so that went nowhere. Then she moved on.
She moved on to Lucas Roberts.
Her half-brother. And almost slept with him.
Almost. That near miss is a recurring point in the sources. It really defined her early character arc for many viewers, and not necessarily in a good way. It's cited as part of why she landed on some most hated character lists.
Did learning the full truth finally change her behavior?
It seems like it started to. Soap Central suggests that once the final parentage was revealed, Roman and Kate, she began to curb her wild ways, started acting less like a scheming newcomer and more like someone trying to figure out her place. She even befriended Philip Kyriakis.
Another half-brother?
Yep. So maybe she was starting to adjust to build actual family connections.
But then the Salem stalker storyline intervened.
Tragically, yes. Cassie became one of the victims.
And her death. It's infamous for how bizarre it was.
Absolutely legendary in its absurdity. According to the sources, Cassie somehow figured out who the stalker was. She sent a message saying, "I know who you are."
Which basically signed her death warrant.
Pretty much. The killer couldn't let that stand. She was found murdered, stabbed. But it was the staging of the body that everyone remembers.
The piñata.
The Thanksgiving turkey piñata. Sources from Wikipedia, the list, Soap Central, all mention it. Her body was found stuffed inside this festive piñata. It was so over the top, so ridiculous, it became instantly unforgettable.
Just, wow, stuffed in a turkey piñata. And then who got blamed?
More drama. Kate Roberts, her biological mother member, was found near the scene holding a bloody knife. So Kate got arrested for murdering the daughter she barely knew.
But Kate didn't do it. It was the stalker.
It was the stalker, who, as we now know, was revealed to be Marlena, brainwashed by Andre Demera. Another layer of Marlena being unwillingly tangled up in the twins' story, even in Cassie's death.
So Cassie's dead, stuffed in a piñata. End of story. This is days, so probably not.
Not even close. This is where the whole Meliswin Island twist comes in. Months later, Cassie turns up alive.
Along with Roman and all the other stalker victims.
Exactly. They were all found on this remote island. The name itself, Meliswin.
New Salem spell backwards.
Clever, right? Andre Demera, still posing as Tony, had built this perfect replica of Salem on an island. He faked everyone's deaths and was holding them captive there.
So the piñata murder, all of it, was staged by Andre.
All part of his elaborate revenge plot. He wanted his enemies to suffer in this twisted copy of their town.
What was Cassie doing on Meliswin, besides being not dead?
Well, interestingly, the sources note she actually formed a bit of a relationship with Roman Brady there.
Her biological father, who she'd only just learned about before being killed.
Yeah, talk about complicated family bonding. Getting to know your dad on a fake island prison run by a Demary impersonator. Soap Central also mentions she was suspected by some, maybe being in cahoots with Tony Andre for a while. More mistrust.
But eventually, they all got rescued.
Yes, Andre's scheme unraveled, and everyone was brought back to the real Salem. Rex and Cassie included.
Back from the dead, back from the piñata and the fake island. Did Cassie stick around long after that?
Not really. The sources indicate her story kind of peters out after the return. The last major mention is that she left town with Rex when he took off after the Mimi breakup.
And unlike Rex, she hasn't been back since.
As far as this material indicates, no. Cassie Brady hasn't been seen in Salem since that departure. Her arc was incredibly intense. Alien, engineered, near incest, piñata victim, resurrected but ultimately shorter than her brothers. She left town, and that's kind of it.
So their paths diverged quite a bit after the big reveal in the Meliswin adventure. Rex kept coming back into the Salem chaos. Cassie seemingly found her way out.
It seems that way. Their whole story, though, from start to finish. It's just unlike anything else.
Definitely stands out, even for days. How do the sources describe the storyline overall? What was the reception?
Well, you see words like unusual, complicated, bizarre, and, yes, frequently ridiculous.
Can't argue with ridiculous when you're talking turkey piñatas.
Right. But also words like memorable, that gone are the days. Source specifically calls the Gemini twins' arrival one of those key nostalgic moments. They say it added mystery and enchantment and left enduring memories.
So ridiculous, but also kind of magical in a weird Salem way.
I think that captures it. It was this unique blend of hardcore soap opera tropes, hidden parentage, family secrets, romantic triangles, murder, combined with pure sci-fi concepts like genetic engineering and, well, coma surrogacy.
And the audience reaction seemed mixed but strong.
Yeah. Cassie, as mentioned, caught some flack, ended up on most hated lists, partly because of the alien thing and Lucas near miss, but the storyline itself is remembered, maybe even fondly, despite the absurdity.
It shows how willing Days is to just go there, to take these huge swings, even if they land somewhere completely bonkers.
Absolutely. They created characters with maybe the most complicated backstory imaginable, guaranteeing drama for years, even if it involved things that stretch credulity to the absolute breaking point.
So when we boil it all down for you, the listener, why does this crazy story of the Gemini twins even matter? What's the takeaway?
I think it's a perfect case study in how soaps, especially Days, push boundaries. They're not afraid to mix genres, to throw sci-fi into the melodrama.
And it shows how a truly bizarre origin story, engineered, stolen genes, coma-born, can actually fuel years of compelling character drama, even if you're rolling your eyes at some of the plot points.
And how central figures like Marlena just get woven into everything, no matter how outlandish. It grounds the craziness, in a weird way. Her involvement makes even the unbelievable feel somehow Salem plausible.
So we've traced it all. The crash, the alien confusion, the shocking engineered truth, Rolf, Roman's stolen sperm, Kate's eggs, Marlena's coma.
The funeral reveal, the romantic fallout, Rex's struggles and returns, Cassie's piñata death and resurrection, Meliswin.
All leading back to that core truth we found in the sources. Rex and Cassie Brady. Not aliens. Humans engineered in a lab under the most extraordinary, ethically questionable, and dramatically potent circumstances imaginable. Biological children of Roman Brady and Kate Roberts, carried by Marlena Evans.
A creation story that could only happen in Salem.
Which leaves us with one final thought, building on everything we've unpacked from these sources. Considering Rex and Cassie's unique, almost unbelievable start in life, what does their story really tell us about identity in a place like Salem?
Yeah. Are you defined by where you came from? I mean, literally came from a lab, from stolen genes, from comatose surrogate? Or are you defined by the family that claims you, the name you take, the choices you make in that chaotic town?
Does your origin dictate your destiny? Or does the sheer madness of Salem mean anything can happen regardless of how you got there? What stands out most to you about their incredible journey?
Something to chew on after this dive into one of daytime's wildest tales.
Thanks for listening. If you love crazy soap twists like this, hit subscribe, give us a like, and drop a comment. Also, what's the wildest days storyline you remember?